We're back with We Want Winners. We're going to talk some 49ers here. By the way, those of you who are following us on YouTube, we just did an episode of Pod Holla where we interviewed Valkyrie's color commentator, Morgan Reagan, which was a lot of fun. So that is in the feed today, right now. And if you are an audio listener, Pod Holla now has its own new feed. You can just search for Pod Holla. It is no longer in the BSPN feed, but it is in its own feed. So subscribe there, and we're going to have many more guests in the future. So, Rod, we have 2 preseason games to talk about for the 49ers. Not that wins and losses matter, but they did win one and they lost the other. They kind of beat the Chargers pretty well. A lot of it was late second half kind of stuff, but I'm sure they felt pretty good about that. First game, not so much, but the first game was pretty much no starters for them. But the news just came out, I don't know, about an hour ago. The 49ers are sending Zamir White to the Saints for De'Zhaun Jones. De'Zhaun Jones, linebacker, gives them a little depth. Their linebacking core is a little beat up at this point right now, this far along in the preseason. And they made that trade just like an hour ago or so, at least as far as the reporting was concerned, about 2 hours ago. What do you know about De'Zhaun Jones?
I looked it up, and he's a journeyman. What immediately popped in my mind is, what does that mean in terms of where they're at with Nick Martin?
Mm-hmm.
That was where my mind went. In that, is it a little worse than it was? Or I don't know that it was ever reported how bad it was, but if they know something that leads them to believe that he's not going to be right back out there, that would be a blow, because I was looking forward to him getting some reps this season, and what I had hoped would be a fuller, like, third linebacker role, because he's talented, and quite honestly, Tatum Bethune has been more productive than he has been, but he's just a physically, um he's a freak athlete, and then couple that with the fact that he's already established himself as a very good special teams player.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a blow if he misses a significant amount of time. And at this point in time, you're not gonna get a player of that caliber, where as somebody like De'Zhaun Jones is more experienced right off the bat. But you'd rather, obviously long term or even short term, you'd much rather the upside of a Nick Martin and the reps that I think that he needs to further develop. I mean, because it's a big year for him, to be able to step forward and show that he is really the future.
Nick Martin, I believe, hurt his hamstring near the end of the game on
Hmm.
Thursday, and so that's kind of what we're waiting for, to see how hurt he is with the hamstring. Other news coming out of the game today, or out of practice: George Kittle, he is he's on the active list. I don't know what that means as far as playing opening week. It sounds like a tough one. I would kind of prefer that he doesn't play, but it is against the Rams. That is a team that they are going to be competing with for the division. And but I mean, the guy's a freak. Tears his ACL and is back on the field in something like 225 days or something like that. And what do you think about the Kittle news?
I am excited, and I'm one with shocker, spoiler alert. I'm on the other side of most fans in this debate in that I think if he can play, he should play. I'm not one who says, well, you should hold him back, for week 2 because so the the analogy that I've posited is what you're telling me is he'd be okay week 1 versus the Cardinals at Levi, but he can't be available for the first game in Australia. It's a marquee matchup, and it's versus the presumptive favorite in. Well, I guess people in Seattle would push back on that, but one of the powerhouses in the league in our division. I just if he can play, and that should be the first benchmark. If he's clear to play and he could play, I think he should play. Um, that's a big game and it's a big stage, and I'm sure the league wants each of these teams to put their best foot forward in this highlight marquee matchup. But I guess it's the 49er brass's job. It's not their job to placate the league office, and they're going to do what they deem best. And I see that part of it too. But I would love to see him out there.
I think if he's cleared and they're not worried about the flight and the changes in the body because of the time zones and all that stuff, they think he's good. I mean, I think he wants to play. He could play. If he's probable, I think I would kind of lean towards it. But if he's coming in questionable and they're kind of unsure, I almost would not want him to make that flight. But
well, if it's a game time decision, then I don't think you have him go through that. But as I've said this week on social, that the counterpoint to the flight is that, well, number one, you have to trust if you believe in the sports performance team of the 49ers, which I can see where some might not, but they're not flying commercial.
right.
And there are things that can be done with the scheduling, with the meals, with the hydration, with the lighting on the plane that can mitigate a lot of the concerns of that kind of cross continental travel. If you are able to implement those things. But, if, they know better than I do the capability of their staff. And if they can't handle that and they're really worried about how these guys are going to show up on Thursday night, then that's a mitigating factor too. The fact that he's coming off an injury, I wouldn't expect him to play next week. So you're talking about that game being the first game action. But then the counterpoint to that is whatever game it is going to be his first game action. So if it's week 1 or week 2, if he's cleared, I've never understood if he's good, then what is one more week going to do to will it make him gooder? And I use that word because I know I know it's not a word, but is he going to be gooder the next week by waiting? So I lean towards wanting him to play, but I can see the counterpoints and all the arguments against it. Because it's a game and it's a division game and it counts. And at full strength, we're going to be up against it. So I think we need all the bullets that we can manage against those guys. So
I wonder if they have a number of practices that they would like to see him go through.
that's
I wonder if,
very interesting.
I wonder if that's part of their reason. Like if he can go, if we think he's able to go hard in these practices, because he was practicing today, but he didn't do any of the team stuff. I think he just did his solo stuff. Because CMC was back as well. And CMC, at the end of the practice, it was reported that he did go through team stuff. So he is also back. So it was a pretty newsworthy day for the 49ers when it came to their practice, getting two guys like that back.
Right. But
And
also, we had the injuries yesterday in practice that were, I don't know how significant they were, but both Demo and Scribbling didn't complete practice. So that
yeah,
was kind of newsworthy.
and Stribling is coming off of another really good preseason game where it looks like they trusted him a lot and they went to him a lot. He had the drop that was deeper, would have been I can't remember if he would have scored or not, or if he was just short, but he dropped one, but was making all the other throws. And there's lots of noise about him as somebody who's going to be able to be on the field a lot. And in our first show back from the break, we talked about it, and we talked about rookies in this system, and especially wide receivers who are rookies in this system. Is it possible that Stribling can buck that trend and actually be somebody who is utilized on the field day one, game one?
I wouldn't see why not, but again, I hate to be a guy that's, you know, putting a damper on things. But let's say even if that's the case, because I'm not sure if it was Wagner or it wasn't Cone, but somebody posited on the internet today, could he be wide receiver one week one?
Hmm.
I don't know about that, but even if he has a significant role, I don't think he's going to out target CMC this season. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he's going to out target Kittle this season. Theoretically, if both those guys stay healthy, they could double him up in targets. I don't think I would bet that side of a wager can do both. Kittle and CMC double up his targets, and I would think so. And I would also think Debo would be in the mix for more targets than him. And then, it's a crapshoot on a healthy Mike Evans also probably does. But again, I'm one of the guys who is not bullish on the number of games that Mike Evans will actually play this season. So I don't disagree that he can be good. I had a big conversation this week about, the guy says, the guy Matt says that he's a Hall of Famer. Well, I'm not disputing that Mike Evans' career as a whole. He is a Hall of Famer. That dude that shows up for 34 years old on week one, if he shows up at all, that dude is not a Hall of Famer. So we need to temper our expectations. He's the same kind of Hall of Famer Travis Kelce is. Career wise, yes, but the guy who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs this year, that dude, he wasn't a Hall of Famer last year, and he's not going to be one this year. That's just it's father time. It's not, and that's not no disrespect to them, but aging happens, and to try to pretend that 2026 Mike Evans is the same as 2016 Mike Evans is just ridiculous. They're not the same guy.
I think
So
whoever Matt is may have been parroting who's the guy that does the 49er games, the broadcaster.
the color,
Yeah, what is his name?
Tim
Is it Tim Ryan? No, not Tim. Is
Tim
it Tim?
Ryan, yeah, Tim Ryan.
He's the one who said it on the broadcast. So
Mm.
I wonder if Matt was kind of just parroting what he said. By the way, did you see the interview that Mike Evans did with Vern Glenn on the broadcast?
No, I did not.
So Vern Glenn, I've met Vern Glenn before. Vern Glenn he's a small man. He's not a tall man. And Mike Evans is a giant human being. I think they had Vern Glenn stand on top of something to do this interview.
He would have had to, because he's like my size. He is a small guy. So yeah, I can't imagine like holding the microphone up so that
because Mike looks huge. He looks like a giant dude.
Yeah, he's every bit of 6'5".
Yeah. What do you think of Stribling's current leader in the clubhouse for the nickname? Have you heard this one?
Yes, but you share it.
I think this was also a Tim Ryan thing. In the first game, he called it the Strib Club. I don't know if that one's going to stick. It's hard.
That's not the one. That's not the one I
heard.
You heard
a different one. You heard a different one. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason
George Kittle. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'll explain the Strib Club, then you explain the Kittle one, because I think the Strib Club is kind of clever. It's just hard to say. It's not an Strib Club. It's not an easy thing to say. So I don't know how much it sticks. I don't know if Stephen A. Smith is going to be yelling that one out on his shows. But what was the one that Kittle said?
De'Zhaun Honey. That's man. George Kittle.
George is funny. George's funny. So why don't we? I wanted to talk about some of these guys with you, and just we could talk about the games themselves if you want, but there's just players that I'm more so watching for performances than anything else, like who stands out, who's doing something that looks like it looks like they kind of belong on that field. And Stribling definitely both games I thought looked fantastic. What do you think about Dugger out there in the first two games?
He kind of pops. He looks like I think he's going to be one to watch. It's where it gets tricky with these guys now is that who is it that they're playing against? And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't re-upped my PFF yet. So I'm not able to do the research I'll do. And to be really completely honest, I've watched both of those games on the condensed version. I didn't watch. That's why I didn't hear any of Tim Ryan's commentary, because it's just the clips. I watched both those games today in about an hour.
Yeah.
So it's more, just looking at, because that's what I am like you in that really what I am interested in is the reps of those guys. I don't really put much stock in the wins or the losses. It's really not about that for me. But yeah, I really like the way he looks. I think they got something in Prysock. Again, Halton looked good yesterday, but that was definitely a guy who's like, who are they playing against at this point? That make kind of that, is what we don't know, is if he's playing against school teachers and Amazon drivers. It's kind of a different deal. But for what he was asked to do out there, he looked good.
Now, two guys who I think we've been waiting to see if they're going to add value to the team. One of them took a punt all the way to the house on Thursday in Jacob Cowing. We've been just waiting to see him get on the field. We want to see his speed. He was hurt all last year. I think the year before, maybe Shanahan had one wide receiver screen thrown to him, and that was it. And he had some opportunities yesterday, and so did Jordan Watkins. Jordan Watkins caught a touchdown, albeit late in the game, against the Chargers bottom stringers. But what do you think about those guys? I feel like all Cowing has to do is win the punt return job, and he'll be on the team, because I mean, they threw Debo out there for the first one, and I was like, get that man away from the punt return team. Like, I don't know why that was the case. I don't even want Debo on kickoff returns, but if you don't have anybody better, you're at least
Mhm.
he's at least going to fall forward and hold on to the football. But if Cowan could do both, I haven't really seen him on the kick return team. I've only seen him on the punt return team.
Mhm.
But maybe Watkins can do some of the kick return stuff. Like that would be the value that those guys could add. But man, Cowing looked fast on that return for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, the only thing is, and you know, feel free to disagree, obviously. I don't know either one of those if either one of those guys can make it just on special teams. I don't think that they can afford with all the injuries with because we haven't talked about it, but I think that there's a good chance Christian Kirk doesn't even make the team.
Yeah,
So
he hasn't been on the field except for like one time.
at all. So it's one of those things where depth is going to be and it's going to matter. They're going to need guys who can you can't just go with no matter what you think about it. You can't go with just Scribbling, Debo, Robinson, and then who else? Malik Turner? Is that those are going to be your guys, your primary four, and then you're filling in. I think they normally keep six. Um, if you decide to, let's say, keep both um, Cowing and um, my guy, you just
Watkins.
mentioned him.
Watkins.
Yeah, Watkins. If you keep them both, you can't just have them. They have to be able to get out there actually at the position and
Mm-hmm.
contribute. If
Mm-hmm.
because you have to, all jokes aside, you can't count on Mike Evans to play 17 games. I just don't think that at this stage of his career. I've been saying all along from the beginning of the signing, you can get 12 good games out of him, preferably towards the end of the year. I would be ecstatic with that. I just don't think at this point in his career he's going to be able to give you a full season. So you have to construct your roster um, based on that contingency that those whatever 7 or 8 targets times 5 or 6, so 40 or 48 targets, depending on how it works, that you've got somebody that you feel really comfortable. Uh, I would imagine if we're getting even more specific, somebody who can give you those reps at the X, which of those two players, Calvin would be the guy that you would put in that position because I just don't see Watkins as an NFL X. So yeah, so it would be incumbent upon him to be able to show that he is up to the challenge of taking meaningful reps if called upon.
I looked at the games played for these guys over the last number of years, and Debo averages about 15 games per season over the last 5 years, and
Mhm.
he only really missed games in the second year of his NFL career. Mike Evans was very similar. He was around 15, 14 in 2 seasons ago, and last year was the first time that he missed any significant time. He only played in 8 games. Demarcus Robinson, pretty solid numbers as far as games played. He's played at least 16 games, except for last year. He only played 14, but I believe those were because of the
Mention.
suspension. So even though those guys, even though Debo and Demarcus Robinson have some tread on their tires, they are pretty dependable. Debo's going to be questionable for several games, and just he's just going to tough it out and play. So there's going to be opportunity for these younger guys to step on the field just because of that. And It'll be interesting to see how much Shanahan trusts them. Is he going to trust De'Zhaun Stribling, Jordan Watkins, and Jacob Cowing all at the same time on the same football field? That's going to be a tough one, but he might be forced to, because the one that he wanted to be out there can't be out there because of his knee. Pretty Ricky's done, so we don't. That's not something that they can even rely on. Maybe I don't know creatively what you do. When Kittle is back, and you can have more creative sets just because Kittle is such a monster receiver. And of course, CMC, as Potent Potables said in the chat already, he's the cheat code. He is the cheat code, but you don't want to overuse him like they've sort of had to last year because they didn't have some of the other players that they could have thrown the football to. So that and Kyle is so stubborn about those things, he might have to bite the bullet on some of this stuff and play these guys and make and give them opportunities to be out there, because some of it just might be forced upon him. I mean, you can't rely on a Christian Kirk if he can't even practice.
Mhm. Well, two things that come to mind is that I love Debo first, as I proclaimed last week or 2 weeks ago. But in reality, what we learned in Washington last year is he's not a number one receiver, and he really needs an X outside to really
Mm-hmm.
unlock him. And then two, um, we know how Kyle loves Debo. So I mean,
Yep.
because there were times in his last season here where there were stretches where it really felt like he was force feeding Debo the ball. So from what the past tells me is that Debo is going to get plenty of usage. Kyle is
Mm-hmm.
going to feature Debo. So what that means is these young guys are going to have to um, make it impossible for him to because that's just Kyle has always been. That's why CMC, Kittle, and Debo are going to get the lion's share of the reps this season. And then Evans, to whatever extent, especially in the red zone. I mean, talk about a cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
Even at his advanced age, I still think he's, when healthy, still one of the best options down there, just simply because he can post dudes up. And most NFL DBs just can't um, compete with the size. And with Brock being such an accurate passer, I think that they will definitely our red zone um, offense should be a ton improved over
Mm-hmm.
it what it's been um, the past several seasons. So I look forward to that. Again, that's why I hope he is able to stay on the field for significant stretches of time this season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think these guys are going to have to force Kyle's hand if they want to get on the field.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
going to have to make it impossible for him to deny them. So we'll see.
Some of the other guys that I wanted to talk to you about: Romello Height. He's going to get some playing time if Mykel Williams is not ready, and it doesn't look like he's going to be ready for the start of the season. Um, Obviously, Nick Bosa, the hope is that he will be, but he's still coming back from his knee injury. It looks like Height's going to get on the field. What have you thought of him so far?
He is, he is has been to me as advertised. He is a situational pass rusher, and I think he can thrive in that position. But you hit on what one of my main topics for this week was is if in terms of a ranking or a percentage, I think Nick Bosa's not only his on-field performance, but just his presence is going to be vitally important to set everybody else up. Just his presence. So my question was, at what percent does Nick Bosa have to be to give us that kind of impact? Can a 75% Nick Bosa still create enough disruption that teams have to game plan for him, and then
Mm-hmm.
it leaves Osa and the guys in the middle, Collins and Halton, if that's the way they decide to go. Um, and then whoever ends up height or whoever it is that ends up at the other end position, eventually I would assume it's going to be Williams at some point. How critical, um, at what point do we get to a place of diminishing returns? If Bose is only at 60%, are we better off just letting him recuperate and let these other guys sort it out? But if he's at 75, 80%, can he still be effective enough to raise everybody's floor?
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was going to ask you a Nick Bosa question too. He seems like a guy who needs to feel like things are not perfect, but really good for him to feel comfortable and to feel prepared and to feel ready. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't play hurt. I'm sure he's plays
Oh yeah.
hurt all the time. Like these guys are beat up constantly. But like the perfect Nick Bosa and the Nick Bosa who signed for the largest contract for a defensive lineman at the time, that version of Nick Bosa, he probably has to feel pretty close to, as good as you can get at that level. Um, if he is not closer to 90%, I kind of wonder if they just tell him to hang out and miss the first 4 weeks. I haven't heard anything, by the way. I don't know. It
Hmm.
sounds like he's kind of on target, but that a lot of that stuff is so whispery and secret that, we don't really know. We only know what is being reported. But if we don't have Bosa and Williams to start the season, it's not a great thing for the defense whole. I mean, it's going to be a lot of Fred Warner. It's going to be a lot of who's going to in the secondary make plays because they're going to have to because there's going to be more time for the QB to throw. It's going to be a lot of that, and I can't imagine that Raheem Morris is like, I'm ready for this. Like, you're ready for what you want to do because you have Nick Bosa rushing the passer is what you're ready for. So that'll be tough. And the I guess the longer we don't hear about him is kind of the worry for me. But what I was going to ask you was, does Nick Bosa have to be the 18 sack version of Nick Bosa for the 49ers defense to play well enough for them to be in the upper echelon of the NFL?
I don't know if he has to be that good. I don't know that necessarily he needs to be game wrecker Nick Bosa to impact things, but he has to be okay. Maybe not a top five defensive end in the league, but he has to be top 10, top 12 when we're looking at impact stats. You know, hits, quarterback pressures, quarterback sacks. He doesn't need to be top five, but he needs to be productive and make offensive coordinators worry about him. If they can just single block him like they were able to do a lot before he got was finally out this year, it's a problem because the defense is not predicated on it is it seems to me as a layman from the outside looking in that the defensive line is built for Nick Bosa to take two and
Mhm.
sometimes three um, to set everybody else up. And there is an expectation that 30-40% of the time he's going to be able to defeat that double team and still wreak havoc. Now, that's a lot to ask, but when you have his talent and you're being honestly, if we just be real, he's being paid like somebody who is supposed to be able to on a a semi-consistent basis to beat double teams and make plays off of double teams. So I think I don't know that he has to be um, defensive player of the year level, but he needs to be just below that. I think that's what. And let's add in the fact that I'm sure he's looking for an extension. So it behooves him to show that he can still be that guy to get that money.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I wanted to save this one for a little bit down the list because it's not super duper important. But what do you think about this Kurtis Rourke and Adrian Martinez QB3 battle?
Yes, I was hoping we would get to that. I was going to bring that up because he didn't play this. We didn't. I wasn't here last week, so we didn't get to talk about his performance, and then he didn't play this week. Um, I I came away very impressed with him last week. The efficiency and kind of like Brock in that not as good as Brock. I didn't say that, but in the way that he made decisions, and it seemed like, you know, 14 out of 16 aside, it seemed like he made the right decision most of the time with
Mhm.
where he went with the ball because, you know, completions can be deceiving because you watch the all 22 and you see, sometimes guys will hit a check down and they'll get the completion, but there was something more that they could have had down the field that they either missed or were scared to attempt. So
Mhm.
that's why the completion numbers can skew things. But in looking at that game last week, I made a point to look at him to see if where he went with the ball, and I was very impressed with him. Am I on the trade McCorkle Jones train yet? No. Um, I, it would have to be. He would have to show me a little bit more, and then obviously Kyle and then would have to be comfortable enough with him to do that, and then the return would have to make sense. If
Mhm.
you tell me if you tell me week 6 that you're to give me a third round pick in next year's draft, which is supposed to be one of the all timers, I do that for sure. And then, anything above that. So you tell me you're gonna give me a 2 for Mac Jones. His locker is getting cleaned out today. But I don't know that I would trade him for like a 5th round pick or nothing
Right.
like I'm not giving him away.
Well, I mean,
Let's
it's
say
pretty
that.
clear that they weren't gonna do that because they didn't trade him before the draft.
hmm But now with the Rourke thing, a few more performances like that, I would be comfortable with him being the backup because we have to remember that although this is like his first significant playing time, technically he's not a rookie. Well, he's not a rookie, so he was around all last year. So and then he's a mature dude, and again, what he showed. Not that it's apples to apples. I'm not making that comparison, but he looked just like the guy who was at Indiana. It was the same thing. He showed me in that small sample size that the things that were his strengths at at the level below will appear to be what is going to be his strong suit um, in the league, and are what people look to from Mac Jones as his strengths, and I just think that Rourke is better at it. I he's got a little athleticism to him, which is one of the big things that was always going to be a demerit against Mac because we saw it Thursday that you know and again, everybody or anybody who has listened to us for any amount of time knows how I feel about Trey. Um, but he's just a more talented football player than Mac Jones. It would take. I was joking with somebody on the group chat watching the game that how many rushes would it take Mac Jones to get 37 yards? And the consensus was like 4 or 5. So I mean, it's the athleticism portion of the game is not in a way that it was even 10 years ago, or damn sure when like Steve Young was there. It was a nice thing to have. It's a prerequisite now. You just can't be a statue back there. You have to be able to move. You have to be able to extend the play. Um, and that is something that Rourke is able to do. That's why Adrian Martinez is interesting. I believe Kirk. He's just a did I say Kirk? Okay, it's just a better player. Um, so yeah,
Martinez looks like what you would expect someone trying to win a QB3 battle out there. He's running around. Sometimes he's kind of confused. He's trying to create plays with his legs because he knows that, the other team is going to blitz because the offensive line is not great when you're in the third quarter or fourth quarter near the end. People are tired. People just want to get out of there. And so he's like trying to do stuff. But when he has to sit there in the pocket and the defense does something to force him to make a throw that he doesn't want to throw, sometimes he just throws it. Like there was a pick six in this game. There was another one that I think may have gotten dropped that he threw right into the defensive back's hands. Rourke looked like he was in control. Martinez looked like he was being controlled. And I think that's the main difference. Now, we didn't get to see Rourke in game 2. He hurt his rib. That is also part of the thing. He didn't play last year, hurt his rib already. So he's got to prove that he can be out there. But just for best version of each guy, Rourke clearly looks like the better player.
Yeah, and you hit on it. I did not say that, but he's a very poised player.
And he's an
Rourke
older
is.
dude too at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked what I saw from him.
We saw on Thursday the debut of Kaelon Black. And Kaelon Black, they kept comparing him to Jordan Mason. I don't want to give him those Jordan Mason kudos quite yet because Jordan Mason did it for real for the 49ers. But what it looked like just in the couple of series that he played, it looks like he reads the play and hits the hole really quickly. Now, the speed beyond that, I don't think he has great speed beyond that, but from the balance and the feet and the ability to read and hit the hole, he looked really good. And I was like, wow, there might be something to him. I guess the thing that I think about, and this is the thing that we talked about a couple of years ago when Mason was on the field. If you are to take out Christian, if you're going to take Christian out of the game and you want to sub in a player, you usually would want to sub in someone who plays a little bit more similarly to Christian, because if not, you're kind of telling the other team that we aren't able to run all of our plays with this guy. So I don't know what Kaelon is like out of the backfield. I don't think that was his strong suit when he was coming out of college, but Mason became okay at it. He had to do more because he was playing in the 49er system when CMC got hurt. But for just from a straight ahead running the football standpoint, Black looked pretty good.
But you hit on the exact point that I was making, is that he does look a lot like Jordan Mason, but we saw that they were basically forced to play Jordan Mason because they just didn't have Christian. And then if they were really comfortable with him being the number 2, why would they trade him? So it's just, and Kaelon Black in college was not, he wasn't really called upon to be a receiver, and then everybody like went ape doo doo over him at the East-West game talking about how in practice he caught everything. I mean, which is great, but I mean, what you do in like shells and shorts is not really the same thing. So
See, he runs
that,
real routes. Like he's not a
yeah.
normal, guy just
Mhm.
catching passes out of the backfield. He will go out wide sometimes to do stuff. So yeah, it's just an
I think,
interesting wrinkle.
yeah, I've long said on this platform that I think that when he starts to lose juice as a running back, that they could easily move him to the slot if that's what
Mhm,
they wanted to do.
mhm.
He's just that good as a receiver, and so nobody's gonna replace that. But to your point, I think Jordan James is more of a prototype backup
Yeah.
for CMC, but he can't stay on the field up to this point. Although he did return, um, he returned yesterday, I think. So I think I saw a report to him and CJ West returned to practice yesterday. So maybe it can get up to speed enough to show us something here next week um, in Las Vegas. I'm still trying to figure out how I can go to the game.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm technically not supposed to be out in public like that right now. But I as we saw, I got I made a compelling argument to go to Hershey, Pennsylvania for a concert. So
Maybe Chuck's in town. Maybe you and Chuck go
right,
together.
I can use that again. It that worked the first time. But yeah, that is it's going to be interesting. I think we've gotten to a point where the 53 is going to be a lot. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be one of the more interesting cut down situations that we've had in the last several years about what position gets how many players, who gets kept, who gets let go, who's able to make it through waivers to make it to the practice squad. Um, I think there's going to be a lot of activity this cut down day. And
Is
it's
there
weird that, this week is the last preseason game.
Yeah, yeah. This upcoming Thursday with their last game, and then the Niners are traveling. Do you know when they're actually leaving to go to Australia?
I don't know. I hadn't seen it reported, but my hope had been that they would just go early and get acclimated and then do it that way. But I think I saw something where the Rams are basically going to try to mimic as close as possible to just a regular week. And I don't know how that works when you got a 15-hour flight and
I think the
all of
Niners are going over a week early. Like the game's on the
I think
10th,
that would be
so
great.
yeah, they're going like the 2nd or something like that, or that's when they're
I
gonna start their trip.
I think that's smart. I really think that's smart. Smarter than like waiting, you know, 5 or 6 days longer to get there. Yeah, I hope that that is the case.
Is there any other player that you wanted to talk about that we did not get to?
Um, Most of it was just injury related. The Renardo Green is injury is kind of troubling, and Jack Jones is trying to he's trying to make a push. So that's gonna
He shows
I
up on the
I
television screen, that's for sure.
hmm I I have a hard time believing that Raheem Morris specifically is going to give up on Green this quickly. But that's something to watch. That
Mhm.
was the only other note that I had was that is that going to be a thing um moving forward? That seems like the really only battle. And then I'm still kind of, we went into the draft season and came out of the draft season still with no clear identifiable answer at free safety, which is in this system going to be kind of troubling. So I trust. I'm going to choose to trust Raheem Morris and his defensive back expertise to kind of figure this out, because I think that whatever way he goes with the current construction of his room is going to be trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. There are guys that can play free safety, but I don't know that they're ideal fits at that position. And then you couple that with the fact with the still question marks on with the pass rush. It's going to be it's going to be an adventure. And you know, Raheem Morris is a respected dude. He's got a Super Bowl ring, but I don't ever think I know we've never seen him put in the kind of performance that Salah put in last year, where it really at some point seemed like it didn't matter who the hell was going to show up, and he didn't really even know who he was going to have from week to week. But every week he was able to come up with a game plan. They kept him in the game and was able to make play calls when they counted that stopped things from happening. And then to his what Raheem Morris had that Salah didn't have, which is a big deal, is Warner. And then you add Greenlaw to it. So those, you know, Warner especially is just an eraser out there. Whatever mistakes the defense makes, he's able to make up for it. No interior, the interior run game breaks down. No problem. I got it. I got it. I think that, you know, we haven't really used him like that. But shit, if we're not getting any outside pass rush, line him up, let him go make a play. He's that kind of player. I trust him implicitly to go make something happen. And you know, having Greenlaw back, if when he's out there, he is a real difference maker. He is, you know, he's one of the best at that weak side linebacker position. He's one of the best in the league at that when healthy. So I think just by their presence alone, the defense is going to be better. It would really be nice if we could get some semblance of the disruption of Nick Bosa to I'd be a lot less to say that I'd be a lot less concerned about the defensive backfield if they had all three of them.
Yeah.
Bosa in particular. But yeah, I think we've covered everything that I had on my list.
All right, well then let's end with this. Do you like Kyle Shanahan's mustache?
I definitely do not. I definitely do not. And I'm not a guy that normally has opinion on men's face here, but he kind of looks ridiculous. I'm not a fan.
He looks like he's trying to disguise himself in some way. You remember when Chris Paul
that too.
Chris Paul and Cliff Paul, remember when they were doing those commercials? It's like he's gonna do a commercial for Kyle and Keith Shanahan, and like he's portraying Keith Shanahan on the sidelines, and I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's like a Magnum PI fan when he's a kid, but he's Magnum PI. I guess he could have seen some Magnum PI when he was a little kid. But yeah, it kind of looks goofy. It's like I don't know. You know, there's always.
I was reminded of Bobby Valentine when he got through at the game and he tried to come back with the mustache.
That's a great one too. Like who maybe, and this could be the reason. Maybe his wife likes it. He's like, okay.
Well, and that's a great reason.
Yeah, I hope that's the reason, because otherwise, if this is a choice by him, yeah, probably bad choice.
Bad play.
He's a youngish looking dude, And then he put that mustache on himself, and he kind of aged himself up about 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's gonna be it. We'll be back next I don't know, Saturday, Sunday. We'll figure out the right time, because then we're gonna have some time between the last preseason game and then the very first regular season game. So maybe we'll do like a preseason kind of thing at some point to kind of give our thoughts on the season. But yeah, so we're almost there, man. This is happening fast.
It's very exciting.
Okay. For Rod, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.